So, John and Tor here, Saturday morning. What are you doing? Waiting for a stick? He's waiting for a stick actually. Makes a change. And been speaking to some ex-clients recently, guys that I worked with maybe up to 10 years ago. And just meeting them up for a coffee or something, and just asking them, what's your biggest challenge? You know, your business has grown, you're still working on the stuff that we talked about, you're still benefiting from those lessons. But actually, what's getting in your way now? And what's interesting is from the couple of handfuls of guys I've spoken to so far, I reckon there's four big ones that come up, the most frequent ones. And probably the number one right now for many is talent. And questions with talent, really three things. How do we attract the right people? How do we retain the right people? And how do we develop the right people for the future? And I think there's a few obvious things that maybe aren't obvious because people don't do them. But one of the first things is, how do you market your company to attract people? Because recruitment is actually, in the first instance, it's a marketing exercise. You've got to put yourselves out there and make yourselves attractive to the right people. So that's number one. Number two, I think a lot of business owners really struggle with the whole recruitment process, particularly the interviewing process. You know, should I use one of these websites, you know, like Indeed, pay a few £100, then I've got all the CVs to sift. Should I use an agency and get them to do all the searching and save time and let them, you know, give me a short list? And actually, from the experience of guiding clients and their preferences, I don't know that part of it is actually what makes a difference. What it comes down to is the overall process, because an agency can fit into that, or you can do the DIY version, or you can actually, as some clients have done, actually hire people in to help them. You know, HR experts hire people in to help you with the interviewing process. But interviewing is definitely where people struggle, and to make it simple, think about it like this. How do you tell the difference between an A player and a B player? The B player is the one that sits in the chair at that desk or drives the van or does the job. But it's just not that spark, that difference that you're looking for. It gets done, but that's all. There's no initiative that's being taken. There's no real desire, there's no hunger, there's no curiosity. It's like they've got a job, that's it, they've achieved their objective. That's typically the B player. The A players are the people that go, well, you weren't around and I thought this needed done, so this is what I've done, what do you think? Or, well, I've finished that now, what else needs doing? They're the people that want to get off their backsides and make something happen, and they get that sense of fulfillment from doing a good job. And there are people like that out there, and you know what? Many of them are stuck in companies that couldn't give a monkeys about them, and the only thing that keeps them where they are is the fear of loss. You know, what would I do if I didn't have this job? And actually, the grass doesn't look very green on the other side. I'm probably better off here, and that's probably because they don't know anything about you and they haven't seen you marketing your company as an attractive place to work. So those are some of the challenges about attracting the talent. It's a marketing campaign, not a recruitment campaign. You've got to have a robust dequalifying process, so you get a lot of people in the top end of the funnel, and by the time you've dequalified them in your process, you've got the red hot A players in your final shortlist, giving you the luxury of choice and having a couple of good candidates on the bench should they be required. And last but not least, you've got to be able to spot the difference between an A player and a B player. Absolutely vital. And what clients have learned is, if you're not sure, don't. Wait and work on getting the right candidate, and only pull the trigger when you're sure. It's one of my mentors says, Brad Sugars, hire slow, fire fast. If you make a mistake, get over it, get it dealt with, apologise to the person, move on. Because if it's not right for you, it won't be right for them in the long term either. And they deserve to be in a place that's better for them too. So a lot of business owners get hung up on, oh well, what will they do? I've hired them and now it doesn't work and blah blah blah. Look, they're adults, right? If it's not working, they'll know it's not working deep down. Give them the opportunity to find a better place for them. So that's the recruitment one. Talent. Then it's about retention. How do I retain these people? I've hired these A players. How do I stop other people pinching them? Well, the simple answer to that is look after them. But again, people don't know how. So, a couple of questions. With what frequency do you have dialogue with your people? What mechanisms exist in your business to keep the channels of communication open? So you know you've got your finger on the pulse. I remember an army guy, famous guy, I think Colonel Tim Collins, SAS and all the rest of it. And he used to go down the cookhouse and the guardhouse, maybe on a Saturday night when everybody else was out and just the guys who got the crappy shift, the crappy watch, and he'd go and have a cup of tea and talk to them. And of course he'd find out what was going on. Then he'd get his platoon commanders in the next day and go, so, lieutenant or whatever they were, when were you planning to tell me about X? And of course then they're in the spot of did they know about X? If they didn't know, why were they keeping it from the boss? Does the boss really know? There's this whole thing of keeping his finger on the pulse and being streetwise about it. And there's the essence, one of the essences of being a great leader that people respect. You're never going to put one over on that guy, that's for sure. So that's the frequency and the way that you do it to keep an eye on what's going on in the business, make sure everything's staying on track, looking after the individual people's needs. Do you know what's going on in their private life? Because if that's screwed up, there's no way they're going to be a top performer for you. Yeah, and what can you do about it? I remember one of my guys, minor thing at the time, but he had a hernia operation coming up. And he said, I really don't want to go and have one of these cut you open operations. If I do, it's going to keep me off work for 12 weeks. I really want to get a keyhole. This is 20 years ago, by the way, so maybe it's more understandable. He said, I'm really stuck. Would you fund keyhole for me if I come back to work straight away? So we spoke to the convener, the union convener. Said, look, we don't want to set a precedent for everybody suddenly having private healthcare on the company, but he's in a critical role in the tool room. We're really going to suffer if he's out 12 months. We can't just go hire someone to replace a man as skilled as this. So if it's okay with you, we'd like to help him get back to work. So we did. And that goes round the company when you see you've done the right thing for them and you've done the right thing for the company. Another guy had a child with quite a rare health problem. We were down in business in the southwest at the time, and the specialist was up in London. And this guy was a shop floor supervisor, didn't have a car, would walk to work, use the bus, was fretting about going to London. So he could drive, so just gave him the keys to my car, company car, and right, go up to London, take your wife and your child in that, and don't have any stress. Of course, those stories about how you take care of people get around your organisation much quicker than you could broadcast them if you made them into a marketing exercise. But it's those little things, keeping your finger on the pulse, finding out what they need, and there's no real cost to the business. The business benefits tenfold from those little interventions. They're the human things, the ones that stand out over the past 20 years, things like that. There's lots of little things you can do in regular business that doesn't involve that kind of intervention. But it's planning them and sticking to them as a habit will keep you engaged, knowing what's going on in their minds. And another one, how often do I see one-way dialogue? The owners standing up on their hind feet, telling everybody how it is, and not receiving anything in return, and then wondering why the good people leave, because talking to the boss is like talking to a block of wood. Don't let that be you. So that's just a few examples. And then the last factor is development. Do you have the regular training? How do you help people be good at what they do? How do you help technical people become managers? Because it's a completely different skill set. Or do you allow, as Lucas Industries did 30 years ago, you have a technical career path, so you keep your engineers, and you have a managerial career path for the people that know something about people. And I remember in those days, to be a supervisor of other human beings, you had to go on a 12-week residential training course. I think it was called Hilver. It was basically a big old house in Birmingham, and what was funny was all the supervisors went there for training, and so they got the training, but the graduates like me, who were destined to overtake them, we didn't get that. And it seems funny now, but that was just an example of British industry for you. No, we had finance for non-financial managers, a snooze fest if ever there was one, because that was deemed to be more important than looking after people, clearly, because we didn't get trained on any people stuff. We had to find that out through what was euphemistically known as the University of Life and Experience, and plenty of you've been to that one. So that's really the three things: attract, retain, develop your people, because without that, nothing works in your business. So if you've got similar challenges in your business, just post a comment below, and I'll gladly chip in and help if I can. But what are your challenges around talent, around the people in your business? So Tor is, oh, here he is, he's following me. Good lad. Tor, what's going on? So we're going to better go off and find another stick, keep him happy. We're about halfway round our walk this morning, I think, the far end of the woods. Probably hear the motorway in the background. And again, look at this, nice fresh air. We're not in a tin box going to or from London, are we? So just enjoying the day today. So have a great day yourself, and speak again soon.